I think what we need right now is an old-fashioned movie you might have seen at the drive-in. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and yes, I am a fan of the drive-in, and I'm a fan of movies that would play well at a drive-in, like this movie Easy Does It. I have the director Will Addison, who made Easy Does It here on the Film Threat Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Chris? Thanks for having me.
Cool. This movie is like a throwback film. It definitely feels like the type of movie that might have been made in the 70s, with like a big muscle car. There's crime involved, a crime spree. There's violence. There's some insane violence. In addition to Linda Hamilton. How did you pull all these elements together? This movie has like the feel of a film that you might have seen in the 70s. It's just got like all that, like girls, guns, crime, violence, muscle car. Like like all the things that make up a good drive-in movie. How did this all come together? And I want to definitely get into Linda Hamilton because a lot of people might not even recognize her in your movie. But how did it all come together?
Well, it's been a crazy long road, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years by now. Let's see. So it started out as a short film. I had just graduated from the University of New Orleans, and I had a kind of a big group of filmmaking friends, and we were just trying to figure out what to do. We had made a lot of short films and music videos, and Hollywood South was really big in Louisiana at the time, where these big productions from LA were coming in. And so we were getting, small PA jobs on things like that, and kind of seeing how it all worked on a large scale. So I made this short film, and it was about a 10-minute long short film. It actually stars the same three main cast members that we ended up using in the feature. We were all friends at the time, and we made it for probably like $100, and it wasn't great, but it had certain things that kind of really resonated with us, particularly the struggles of following your dream, as well as like the intersection of friendship in that, and what that all means together. And as well as, it had this kind of like zany 70s aesthetic meets kind of madcap Edgar Wright editing style. And so based on that, people are excited for more. So I decided to adapt it into a feature script, and I teamed up with the star of the short, Ben Matheny, who became the producer and star of the feature. And we spent several years just fleshing out the story of the script, and we teamed up with a local New Orleans production company, more friends of ours from UNO, called Worklight Pictures, and we created this 2-minute concept trailer, and we kind of like pulled out all the stops, and we rented this Ford Fairlane at the time, and made this 2-minute trailer. And based on that, we started trying to get investments, and we ended up doing a Kickstarter campaign for $25,000, and managed to make our goal with that just by the skin of our teeth. Thankfully, we had a lot of supportive family and friends helping us out along the way. This was the first feature for basically all of us. We'd all been part of feature films before, but like kind of helming it among our art collective as our own project, it was a huge learning experience. Based on our successful Kickstarter campaign, we were able to attract some more kind of local interest, and we teamed up with executive producer Alexa Georges, and she helped bring in the rest of the financing for the project. And this was about in late spring of 2017, and we spent the whole summer just shooting the movie, basically. Speaking of Linda, normally when you make a film, you want to cast every role before you begin, of course. But we were really holding out for somebody special for this role of King George. And we went into production not having cast that pivotal role. And we had shot for 2 weeks. And, we had a few kind of ideas of who we wanted, people we were talking to. But then we found out that Linda was in town. and we're all massive Terminator fans. So
So
that
did you like go approach her like directly?
we did. Well, no, actually we went through her agents. Somebody on some TV show shooting here, just happened to see her walking her dog past the lot, and they're like, "Wow, Linda's here." She was just checking things out, and as soon as we heard that, we sent all of our stuff over to her agent. We had the script and the trailer and all this stuff, and she loved it. She was really into the idea of this like 1970s car movie. I think the concept trailer really helps get her on board also. And I think she just loves to work with other artists. She loves to collaborate. And it's funny, we actually only shot with her for one day. And
What? Because
yeah.
she's in the whole movie. Okay,
Right.
first of all, that's awesome. I did a film years ago where I had a character that it was played by Bob Odenkirk, and I had him for 30 minutes, and we just shot all the scenes with him in 30 minutes, and then he's throughout the film. So bravo to you for that. So that's amazing because she's throughout the film. The second thing that I think is amazing was I don't know how you convinced her to come up with this bizarre look. She has cornrows and teeth. So one, how did you do all that in one day? And two, how did you convince her to go with a radically different look? I mean, you kind of have to go like, oh my God, that's Linda Hamilton.
Right. Yeah. Well, for shooting in one day, it was definitely tough. We had always planned this role to be hopefully like our biggest name actor. And so knowing that we sprinkled in scenes throughout the scripts, she's probably in the movie, I don't know, like what, 10 minutes total. It's not very much when you put it together, but when you break it up and split it apart, it feels like a much bigger role. And that's kind of what we were going for. And she was training for Terminator Dark Fate at the time. And she had this insane schedule. She would get up at like 4 a.m. and do these crazy workouts for like 3 or 4 hours. And then she would come to our set at like, 8 a.m. And we had to put her corners in that day. And we shot for 12 hours, and she was so energetic the whole time. It was insane. As far as her look goes, that was kind of a collaboration between her and I. I knew the character. I wanted it to be kind of really interesting visually, just eccentric and kind of crazy looking. And so we were drawing on different influences. The cornrows were kind of inspired by Bo Derek from the 70s. She loved that, as well as she's got gold teeth caps that we put in, as well as teeth earrings, and we kind of created this backstory where maybe she's got some kind of dental horror interrogation kind of thing in her backstory, so she wears human teeth earrings.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, because there's an action scene that I also wanted to ask you about. Oh my God, I don't know how you got it, but two of the characters get violently hit in the face, and you see them getting hit in slow motion. And this is not a digital effect. I mean, and they're getting hit with like a baseball bat in the face, not to ruin the scene, but holy shit. Like the way that you slowed it down, I just don't know how you got that. Like, I don't know, how did you do that without hurting those guys? Because it really looks like you hurt them severely.
I would say we hurt them a little, but
that's what it looks like. It's no way that those punches were not pulled. It's not when you see how stuntmen work, you're missing your face by a few inches. This was a baseball bat hitting guys in the face, and the sort of rubbery, slow going like, blah. I mean, crazy stuff. How did you achieve that?
So to get the super slow motion, we had a friend at a camera rental place that was able to rent us out a camera called the Phantom. For like 4 hours, and this thing shoots, like 1 to 5,000 frames per second. It's just insane. If you've ever seen Melancholia, the whole opening is all shot in the Phantom. It's just super slow motion, and so we use that. And the way that camera works is like you record. You tell the camera when you want to stop recording. You never hit record. It'll always be the last 5 seconds of what that recorded. It's a very strange setup. But we had for the baseball bat, it was a rubber prop bat. But even a rubber bat is still hard. You're still going to feel that. And, I believe in that shot, those were the main two characters off screen hitting each other in the face with the baseball bat. And, we had pads for them to fall on and stuff. And we only did it once or twice. But these guys are troopers. They will do whatever it takes to get the shot. And that's definitely something you can kind of only do with friends on an independent level.
Well, I'm sure they earned their pay that day. Although indie film traditionally doesn't pay all that well, but
no.
Well, they were troopers for doing that. What I love about the film is that it really captures like this sort of like a classic exploitation movie from the 70s vibe. It's kind of this, it's violent, it's funny, it's weird. The situations are crazy. They're robbing these places with a fake hostage situation, which is, if you've ever done it, is very fun. It's very fun if you've never done that thing. I don't recommend you ever do that thing, but there's a whole vibe for it. I felt like it was a little bit of, at least with the car, kind of a little Dukes of Hazzard-ish vibe to it. So it had like this. So I don't know. I just got to compliment you for kind of capturing that older type of film that we don't see replicated these days.
Thanks. Yeah, it was definitely a process. I've always been obsessed with 70s cinema, and so, the influences from different movies that I've loved definitely came pouring out over our aesthetic. But there was definitely a technical aspect that we were shooting for where, for instance, we couldn't afford to shoot on film. We wanted to shoot on 16, but it just wasn't in the cards for the budget wise. And so we shot mostly on the Red camera. And over the course of the shoot, it was a pretty ragtag shoot. We shot with about I believe 10 or 12 different types of cameras. Not something you want to do because it's very hard to match those cameras in the color grade. And we were lucky to get this fantastic color grader based in New Orleans, Bradley Greer, who took all of these cameras, and then we studied different film grades from the 70s, like Easy Rider and Badlands and stuff. And, we tried to match those as close as possible, even like the grain type and how it interacts with the colors and shades on screen. But
I love that kind of stuff because it looks like it was shot in the 70s. There are parts that we were like, oh, that's looks like it was shot on like a 72-52 reversal or stock or something. You know what I mean? Like, that would be a 16 stock. Wasn't the 35 millimeter stock was 52, right? Like,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to get into like nerdy, knowing my Kodak film stocks. I was always a fan of Super 8 Kodachrome because it looked like you were filming with crayons. It just had that like vibrancy, but I love that aspect. I remember reading once that George Lucas, when he did episode 1, was trying to match the grain of the old original Star Wars movie when in the scenes where they shot on Tatooine. Yeah. Well, George Lucas, fairly successful independent filmmaker.
There you go.
Technically the most successful indie filmmaker of all time. I mean, that he is. That's it.
He's a legend.
Exactly. But bravo for you guys, because I could tell that like there was like a love of like, I'm so glad you brought up the color grading because it just adds so much to the vibe, right?
Definitely so, yeah. And we tried to even stylize the grade where we had this kind of Americana patriotic color scheme throughout with red, white, and blue and yellow that we were really going for. And so we took all those colors and tried to heighten them and then bring down all of the greens and the grass and things to kind of give it more of a, oh brother, where art thou, dead of summer vibe.
I wore this shirt specifically. I wore this shirt specifically in tribute to your film because I love the design of the vehicle. Whose car was that? That car is like, the car in the movie is like a character, right?
Yeah,
Like
you're right.
it's definitely a character in the film. So
Yeah,
tell me about that car.
it was so when we first made the short film, we just used a friend's terrible car that we painted over. In the concept trailer, we moved up and we managed to get like a 60s car. But for this, like we knew we needed something that had like a very specific personality, like you said. Like this needed to be really badass. And we looked everywhere. We looked for months and months. We went to car shows and we were, you know, perusing Craigslist and looking at car rental houses, and we finally found this 1965 Ford Mustang that was being it was a project car by a family in Kiln, Mississippi, just in the middle of nowhere, and it was selling pretty cheap, and so we drove out there and we bought it for $6,000, and you should have seen this car. It was beautiful. It had this pristine glossy blue coat. But of course, you know, our movie takes place in this gritty Southern world. And so we just like destroyed the top of the car. And we looked at, for the color palette, you know, we were kind of inspired mostly by Evel Knievel's color schemes. And so I was looking at a lot of different vehicles that he was using at the time and other things along that line. And our production designer, Katie Bola, was, you know, painted the whole thing by hand. And of course, you know, if you've seen the movie, the car changes from that color scheme to red and back and forth. And there was a lot of repainting we had to do all throughout. And old cars are just the worst to work with. You know, it would break down every take, every single time.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up Evel Knievel. That was exactly my thought. It's like, oh my gosh, this looks like Evel Knievel style vehicle. Very, very much Americana. I don't know. Like I say, the car's like a character. So I'm glad it got a lot of love. Will Addison, the movie's out now, right? It's out on VOD. It's out on everything.
That's right. Yeah, you can watch it on most streaming platforms. You know, Amazon, iTunes, Apple. More to count. I believe it's only not playing on Netflix and Hulu, but everywhere else you can find it.
Awesome. Definitely check it out. It is a crowd pleaser. It's a drive-in movie, and Linda Hamilton in her most insane performance ever. I mean, she is just, wow. Just kudos to you for pulling that together. I want to thank you, Will. I also want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. If you want to be a filmmaker and be sitting where Will Addison is right now, go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. They support this podcast. And we thank them for that. Will, dude, the movie's super fun. I want to see it. I want to see it at the drive-in. That's where I want to see it.
Right. You got to go to Texas for that.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 drive-in movie theaters near me, and I've been going every week. Now I live in Pasadena, California. So I've been going every week to the drive-in, and I love it. So this movie is made for the drive-in. So even if you get it on a streaming platform, take your TV outside. Take your TV outside, get one of those projection TVs and do it that way. Will Addison, congrats on the film, and thank you so much for being on the Film Threat podcast.
Thanks, Chris.